NARC Kenya leader and running mate to the real winner of the 2022 presidential elections, Martha Karua, has spilled the beans. Martha Karua has come out in a detailed statement and given us a lot of information and details about this abduction squad that has been raining terror on Kenyans, especially since after the 25th of June breach of parliament by the Generation Z, confirming what we have been saying on this channel for a very long time. And coincidentally, my very latest special report video is very closely linked to this, indeed joined at the hip with this. What exactly has Karua told us? She has told us who they are, where they are based, and where the real power comes from, etc. etc. Let us start by going through what she said, point by point, okay? Before we break it all down, so that it is as clear as day. She says that this regime, State House, has formed a special abduction stroke killer squad. Her exact words. And what is the regime's objective? To terrorize its own citizens, its own voters, some of whom voted for them. Yes, to terrorize those people. But here is the real bombshell of what she said. She said that the squad is drawn from Dr. Ruto's own ethnic community. And she adds that members of this unit have been picked from the police, meaning that some of them are police officers, and also from the Kenya Defense Forces, meaning that some of the members of this dreaded unit are military officers. And there's more. Some of the members of this unit are not even Kenyans. They are foreigners from neighboring countries. And she mentioned 3 countries in particular: Burundi, Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, and Uganda. And then also, she told us where this unit is based. At Karen, near the residence of the Deputy President, the official residence of the Deputy President, and also at a place called Polos in Kajiado County. Now, what this means is that some of the Kenyans who have been taken may have ended up in these places. You see, when you blindfold somebody, you don't want them to see where you're taking them. One of the reasons for this may be that you're taking them to a place you do not want them to be able to locate later, in case you release them. That is simple logic. Now, before we dig in deeper, it is very important that we all realize that the biggest issue here is that this is illegal. It is outside our constitution. It rubbishes habeas corpus, the right of somebody who has been arrested to be brought before a judge with the possibility of being released, or if they're going to be held, for somebody to prove why they need to be held. That is enshrined in our very 2010 Constitution. In other words, what is being done here is very, very illegal. It is criminal. I am sorry. I can't find any other words. In other words, we are talking about the criminal activities of an illegal organization, an illegal group. Yeah, it doesn't matter who appointed it or who put it together. Yeah, the Constitution is very clear. Indeed, if you call yourself a democracy, the rules are very clear. Now, I know how most of us are feeling, taking in this video today. You're feeling helpless. And according to you, this is something which is going to work. Please allow me to correct you. It will not work. It can never work. Okay? You see, one of the biggest blunders of this regime, the biggest by far, that has led to so many problems, that has led them into so many traps that they'll never be able to get out of. The biggest problem is that they have ignored history. President Ruto and his regime are behaving and acting like history doesn't matter. That, my friends, is the blunder of the century. Because again and again, history has told us, those who choose to ignore it, all of them, without fail, have ended up in a very bad place. You can't ignore history. I'm sorry. As boring as it may be to you, you cannot ignore history. You can't. To cut to the chase, what does history tell us about this? History tells us this kind of behavior always leads to revolt. Always, without fail. History tells us that those who decide to take this path, and the tragedy is that we never learn from history. It clearly tells us that those who decide to take this path always end up being bundled out of power. Okay? It is not sustainable. It has never, ever been sustainable. You see, if you're under 40 years old, even under 50 years old, you may not fully understand this issue. Okay? Because it has happened before in Kenya. And if you still doubt me, especially those who are involved in this, if you still doubt me, just go back and study for yourself what happened. Okay? Let me just summarize it for you. What happened was that what Moi was doing, this happened during the regime of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, the second president of Kenya. What ended up happening is that his foreign backers, those powerful Western nations, started getting ashamed of what was being exposed about what Moi was doing. And they got so ashamed that they abandoned Moi. They changed very suddenly from being his allies to wanting him out of power like yesterday. And foreign funds rained into the country to support the opposition and to support moves countering the presidency of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. That is precisely what happened. And there's something else here that is super fascinating. There's also another group of people, actually corporate entities, that also need to read history urgently. Okay? Now, one of our local dailies has today done an excellent expose on how some companies are assisting to track these people who end up getting abducted. Now, they are assisting very powerful people. And by the way, very powerful people today. These people may not be powerful tomorrow. And therefore, legally, they are complicit. They are accomplices. Let us keep it very simple. In law, anywhere on the face of the planet, if you assist somebody who ends up committing a crime, who ends up murdering somebody, according to the law, are you innocent? Just answer that simple question for me. Are you innocent? And therefore, the time has come for those who want to do something that will stand the test of time. The time has come for people in Kenya to exercise their right to resign. Now, I know that most of us have the same thinking as the powerful in the Ruto regime, that state machinery is everything. Once you have control of the security forces, it is okay. You can do anything and you can get away with it. I get that. However, please note, that is not true. It isn't. And indeed, I will go as far as saying, this issue of abductions and this squad that does the same could easily be the issue that brings down the Ruto regime. Very easily. This thing is potent. While people are thinking it is helping the Ruto regime, actually, it is damaging the Ruto regime and hounding it out of power much faster than would have happened if this thing did not exist. That is the reality. You see, you cannot threaten, you cannot scare a hungry person. You can't. It is very simple logic. When people get hungry and they get desperate, you can no longer scare them. And these scare tactics, because this is what this abduction unit is all about, they are wearing thin. Because look at the situation in Kenya today. It's very pathetic. Just look at it and engage your brains and think about it. Is this current environment and situation sustainable? And if it is, for how long? For how long? I don't think for very long. And so, as we have been saying on this channel, people have been blaming the police all along, while it is actually not the police. People have been talking about IPOA. Does IPOA have jurisdiction over foreign nationals operating in the country? Does it? And by the way, I had forgotten to mention the following. You see, this idea of having foreigners in your unit is very clever. It is bright. Why? Because if and when this foreigner commits a crime on Kenyan soil, all they have to do is send that foreigner back to their country. How are you going to find them? How are you going to trace them? How are you going to cooperate with the government of that country, and you're not a government yourself, to find that person? And you see, this is nothing new. This has happened before. Let me just give you one example. In the murder of Dr. John Robert Ouko, he used to be the Foreign Affairs Minister for a number of years, the whole exercise was carried out by foreigners. Okay? Now, of course, the person who pulled the trigger was a well-known Kenyan. But the people involved in the entire operation, picking him up, and even dealing with what was done after he was shot, were foreigners. Those who followed this case closely will remember that one of the pieces of evidence picked at the site where Dr. Robert Ouko's body was found was a hairstrand belonging to a Mzungu. Oh yes, just do your own research. And therefore this is nothing new. And of course the advantages are obvious, and the intentions are always evil. That should be clear. Now, I have a lot of things to say about tracking, and especially the tracking of people in our beautiful motherland. But I just don't feel comfortable talking about it. But don't despair. The time will come when I will be able to talk about it. Although a lot of the finer details may bore some of us. But maybe this piece of information I can give you right now. We need to know that this tracking unit working with these abduction jamas did not start their work yesterday. They did not start their work in Kenya yesterday. As far back as 2019, when Uhuru was still president, I came across evidence that I was being tracked. And it was not the government tracking me at that time. The people tracking me were linked to the then Deputy President's office. Just allow me to leave it there. Tafadhali. Be patient. The time will come. And even if it is not me who gives you that information, other people will give you that information in great detail. Now, very quickly before I go, I've already mentioned that my very latest special report is very, very closely linked to this topic. Okay? Now, the details and information in this special report are so sensitive that I cannot even discuss a summary of the contents of this special report. Okay? Please forgive me. But if you really need that information, just drop me an email using our usual email address, which you can also see on the screens right now. You missed this at gmail.com, and I will send you that information about what this highly sensitive special report contains. Okay? But if I were you, I would take advantage of the situation right now, because this offer can come to an end at any time, because of the highly sensitive nature of the contents. I would take advantage and get this special report right away. You can see details on your screens right now. For only 2,999 Kenya shillings, or only $23, you can have this special report, which will help you understand a lot more about what Martha Karua was talking about. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.